So welcome to the 2025 offseason, where we're going to get into the Philadelphia Phillies, also known as the 2025 World Series champions, offseason planning. And like I said at the end of the last video, I'm going to do this a little bit different in that I'm going to provide, I guess, a bit more detail to my organization and also my thought process as I plan for the offseason. First I'm going to start though with the team and kind of give you a quick glance at it. Everybody here in the starting lineup except Real Muto's back. Real Muto is not going to return. He's 34. His catcher ability slipped. Everything has slipped this year. You can see here he was a year ago. His contact has dropped 10 points. Power has dropped 5. His defense has dropped. He just, he's 34. He had a concussion. He's coming off his second, down offensive season in the last 3 years, and he wants a 5-year deal. Obviously not going to happen. And I would say, if he went to market and just no market developed and say in February he was wanting a 1-year deal, I'd bring him back. But this catcher ability has fallen to the point where it's like, I'm really not even interested in that. So the contract, I think, worked out well. He had a big hand in some postseason wins. The World Series clinching game he had a big hand in, and he had a few other big home runs. And he had some good seasons for us. So thank you, JT, and we wish you well as you move on. So then I was carrying 4 bench bats. Hedges was one of them. He's been my backup catcher for how many seasons now? For 4 seasons. And, he's put up a 7 WRC plus, a 1.7 WAR. He's just a really good defensive catcher. He's gone to free agency, I think, every year. I don't think I've ever extended him. I think I've always just signed him. He wants a 3-year deal right now, which is just not going to happen. So we'll see what happens. I might try to offer him a 1-year deal and then pursue him in free agency. We'll see. Or maybe it's time to bring somebody else in. The next backup is Nick Maton, who is a favorite of mine because he was so good for me in my Out of the Park 21 sim as a random guy who came out of nowhere for my Orioles team. He's a good player. He's out of options, though. And he's primarily my backup second baseman, and he can play some left field. And both those guys on my team bat left-handed, just like him. So, I don't know. Maybe he'll come back because I'm sentimental and want him back, but I don't think so. I think the end of the road has been reached with Nick Maton. He's had a decent career for me. Major League, he's had 918 plate appearances, a 104 WRC plus. He's been a little bit above league average as a player. His 162 game average is 2 WAR, which is actually exactly league average. So yeah, he's been totally fine, but it might be time to bring up some new blood from the minor leagues there. Nick Solak, who has been with me, 2 or 3 seasons now? So 2.5. I brought him in at the 2023 deadline or thereabouts, and he's basically just here to hit righties, here to hit lefties, and I don't really feel the need to give him a 3-year deal to do that. And I think he had a down year against him too. Yeah, his career is 120. He's only 107 this year. I don't know. I could see if I'm not happy with my internal options, which we'll get to later in the video, and if he goes to free agency and just wants a 1-year deal, I could see maybe bringing him back, but I'm not itching to. Teoscar Hernandez was my 5th outfielder, if you consider Lee my DH, my 4th. And he won't be back. He's exactly league average for us in 70 plate appearances, not exactly, with a 102 WRC plus, just a bit above league average. Just no need to bring him back. I actually haven't even looked to see what he's wanting. 3 years, $4.6 million. I just don't need him. So we'll get into what the catching plan is, but I think all of these things I could potentially fill internally. That is the 2 catchers, the 2 backup infielders, and the backup outfielder. So we'll see. We'll get into that. I don't think I'll end up filling all of them internally, but I think I could. Pitching. So as I showed you, Dylan Castaneda is out for all of next season, which is a hardcore bummer because I was planning on him being my 5th starter, number 45 prospect in baseball. I mean, he's been as high as what, number 18 prospect in baseball, so that sucks. Hopefully he'll come back okay. He's going to be, I mean, he's already 24 now, so he'll be like 25 the next time he pitches for me. Hopefully his torn flexor tendon in his elbow won't bring down his ability at all. That would suck. Gunnar Meyer is another guy. He'll be in the mix for bullpen role next year. He's got an option year left. He was pretty good for me last year in 63 innings, so he'll be in the mix for a bullpen spot. Morales, I don't think will be. So we don't have a fifth starter yet. Will that be an internal thing? We'll see. I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. Bullpen wise, let's talk about it. So we carry eight pitchers. We've got 7 here with assigned roles and a bunch of non-specified guys. So Mason Fox is the stopper who really oftentimes ends up pitching like an inning and a third, coming in the 8th, and then just being like a glorified setup guy. He'll be back next year. No reason not to have him back. Aaron Bummer, I picked up his $7.5 million option. We will be paying the full sum of that. We were only paying like 20% of his salary last year, but I needed lefties. I don't have enough. Zach Littell is due for like $6 million or so in arbitration. His last year of team control. I mean, he was really good for us with a 1.99 ERA, 2.06 FIP, 2.5 WAR, 2.7 R WAR. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I certainly would like to bring him back. At the same time, he has a ton of trade value right now, so I could see dealing him. Just because I think when you can get really good value for a reliever, you look at that. You got to consider that very closely. Zach Pop was a surprise trade deadline acquisition. I think he'll be back. I think he's been good, and he's only wanting like 1.6 in arbitration. I think Zach will be back. Andrew Schultz is a guy. This is his first full year up with us, and he was also fine. He's cheap. He's got 2 option years left. Yeah, no reason he won't be back. Burl Caraway brought in July. I think he'll be back as well, just because he's a lefty and we don't have enough of those. Brent DeGoss, I could see him competing for that 5th starter spot. He spent some time there. He started 5 games for me this year. Good ERA, decent FIP, and yeah, I think he'll obviously be on the team next year, probably in a long relief role, but maybe he's a starter. Pomeranz is a free agent who doesn't want to re-sign. Guedes. So this is a guy who primarily pitched in Double-A and just I don't control him, but yeah, he probably should have been in AAA, and he should compete for a spot next year. We'll see. I signed him as a minor league free agent back in 2021. He was when did I sign him? I signed him on 3/28. So 3/18. I'm not really sure why I signed him. I think I just saw he was super young and had potential, but then he's really developed into a guy who could be a really good reliever for me, I think, and he's got the stamina to be a stopper. So I think he'll factor into the team next year. I don't know if he'll start, if he'll win a spot in the bullpen to start, but Jack Little had good bullpen arm. I think he's kind of like a guy I send up and down when I need a fresh arm. I don't think he's going to etch out a permanent role in that bullpen. Lawson, of course, made 12 starts for me, pitched 78 innings, and he was fine, but he's out of options, so... And he's 28, and he's an average player. But I could see moving on from him to bring in guys who have more options. Chris McMahon, this is a good-looking player. He only pitched 11 innings for me this year. He was pretty good in 70 innings, primarily in the bullpen in AAA, but he could start. Now, none of these things here are elite, but his 3 pitches really are, so... He's also not a fly ball pitcher, which is awesome. So I could certainly see him factoring into the team next year. Maybe I'll give him a run at the 5th starter job. I don't know. We'll see. Beck Way he's listed as a starter here. He's always been a reliever for me. So let me just... There you go. And I don't know. I've just never been in love with his lack of movement and fly ball pitcher, even though he's had pretty good results for me this year. Or really both years. But I might try to deal him. He's got an option year left, but he might have more value if teams view him as a starter. Alcantara, our trade deadline pickup, we're not going to bring him back. You can see he wants 4 years, $105 million. So that's kind of where the team stands. So I have a 5th starter spot open. I think I want to bring in another lefty and then possibly replace Littell. But by replace, I want to open up more room for some of these guys, like a McMahon or Little, or there are other guys too. I'll show you who could have spots. Some younger pitchers like a Mick Abel, who I'd like to see come up. So I think really I'd like to move out Littell to save some money. Not that I have to save money, but to save some money, and then possibly bring in a 5th starter, or a starter further up here who earns more money, and then let some of these guys battle it out for one of the last bullpen spot or two. I could also move out another guy if I'm like, I don't have enough room to bring in like a Mick Abel. I could move out a Brett DeGoss or something like that. So like I said, I am going to show you some of my minor league system and show you who's coming on the way and kind of how I'm planning that long term. But first, my league is expanding by 2 teams. Not going to get to that in this video, but first let's just look at this. Eastman, I don't think will be back. He's just out of options. He didn't have a good year. We already talked about all these guys. We talked about these guys. Don't think any of them are back. Alcantara and Hernandez, we talked about them, and then it's my minor league free agents. So I guess not much to cover there. So let's take a look at the team as a whole and go through the positions. Are in the off season now, and we're going to go over the roster in more detail and also the organization in terms of the players that are coming up through the organization at each position, and who's going to be here next year, as well as maybe, what it's going to look like in like 3 years maybe. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Players tab and go through each position in the organization. So to start, we're going to go with catcher, and let's just sort by overall first. So Real Muto is going to be gone, like we talked about in the last episode. He's not going to go. Hedges might be back as the backup. Drew Romo, the heir apparent to the starting catcher job, he didn't really have a good batting season in AAA. At the plate, he wasn't very good. And, he had an 83 WRC plus. But because of his defensive abilities, he was able to put up 1.6 WAR. My scout still thinks highly of him. OSA still thinks very highly of him. Very good catcher ability, a captain, good work ethic. He's going to be on the team next year and the number 58 prospect in baseball. So then the question becomes, who's his backup? Maybe Hedges. I'd like to bring back Hedges. I don't really care that he's bad at the plate. With he's another captain. He's also 80 catcher ability. I'll probably do what it takes, because I'd imagine I'll be able to get him on like a 1-year deal with an option, which I'm fine with. If he wants a vesting option of 100 games played, that's perfectly fine, because he's not going to play 100 games. I mean, the most he's played for me is 64. So maybe he'll play more with Romo, but I doubt it. And then really what comes after that is, I got a bunch of, I guess, veterans here in my system that I signed. But if we sort by potential, there's not really anybody on the way who looks that great. Duran is 27 now. He's not a good enough catcher ability to be considered an important part of this future. Then I'll go by fielding ratings to check out, who do I have in catcher ability? Got this guy who's 25 and not a major league caliber player. This guy who's a 70, he's not going to play on my major league team. Zunino, Gallagher, these are older guys who I could certainly, I could have them on my major league team instead of Hedges, but I prefer Hedges. So you can see there's no one really on the way. This is kind of Romo's position for the foreseeable future. There's no great catcher in the farm system here, which is really fine, because you can always go out and sign a guy like Hedges or a guy like Zunino to be your catcher if you don't have one. I'm fine not having a stockpile of catchers in the system. So first base, we're going to go back to the default here and sort by overall. We've obviously got our man Cornelius Randolph. And Randolph is, you can see right here, he's about to enter his first year of arbitration. So we've got 4 years of team control, and he's 28. He turns 29 in June. So we'll say he'll be 28 on opening day. So we've got him 29, 30, and 31. So he'll hit free agency at the age of 32. I haven't been able to extend him on a deal that I want. He wants a 9-year deal. He's been stuck on this, and I've tried to get him down to like 5 years to lock up like a free agent year, as well as cost certainty through his arbitration. He won't do it. So I think I'm just ride out his 4 years of arbitration. He's gonna make like probably $20 million in his last year of arbitration, and go from there. Now, do we have a replacement? Not really. If we go by potential here, Maton is older. He's not gonna be in there. Jackson McKenzie is a younger guy. He's 21, but he played in A and AA last year. He actually went up 3 levels. So A, then high A, then AA. He stalled out in AA. So he's 21. He'll start in AA. Certainly he might still be in the system. He's our 6th-round pick from 2023, so he's going to have to go on the 40-man for another couple of years. Certainly if he continues to develop, he could be a guy who comes in for Randolph, but he'll be 25 then. I don't know if he'll still be on our team then or not. We'll see, but he certainly could be. And Cardona is another guy. He was my 3rd-round pick in 2025, and he just played in rookie ball as he just turned 22, and he was below league average. He'll probably start next year in A ball. So this is another guy that if he develops, in 3 or 4 years, could potentially take over first base for Randolph. Beyond that, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of younger guys. And so it's, looking like McKenzie, Cardona are like our guys like 4 years off. And that's fine. I don't necessarily feel like I have to have a lot of first basemen in the system either, because it's a situation where you can take a corner outfielder if you've got a bunch of them and turn one of them into a first baseman if you need to. So second base, we've got our guy Bryson Stott here. And like I said, Maton is probably off the team, I'd imagine, next year because he's out of options. Stott has locked down the position. Maybe he plays enough positions, but, he bats lefty just like Stott and just like my left fielder, Soto. So, I don't know if there's a place for him, but Stott, I believe, is about to enter arbitration. So I signed him before the season to a $3.6 million deal, and then he's got 3 more years. So we've got him for 4 more years, just like Randolph. We've got him through his age 31 season, right? So, again, not necessarily a guy that I'm going to lock up too far beyond that. Maybe, so I can't negotiate with him until the offseason clicks over because I already signed that 1-year extension. But maybe if he wanted like a 4 or 5-year deal, I could see maybe doing that. But I don't necessarily feel the pressure to, because he's going to be 31 when he becomes a free agent. So after that, we're sorted by potential here. We've got Marco Pantoja, who was our 1st-round pick in 2025, and he's a top 100 prospect. He's probably a shortstop, though. I mean, with a 75 range, he's going to play shortstop. And then we've got Nicholas Perez with the 65 range. Yeah, he's probably more of like a second base guy. We'll probably look to develop that second base rating a little more experience there. He was in A and AA last year and hit well. I think maybe we'll start him at AA again to let him work on second base a bit. But he's a guy who's coming who can be a utility infielder for us soon. Number 42 prospect in baseball. We've got Braden Calise, 8th-round pick in 2021, who just, he hasn't really done much. Did he just start growing? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, this is not a guy that I pay much attention to. He hasn't done much. I mean, my scout still has him as a 45 potential, but he hasn't shown that ability at all. And Nasim Nunez is another guy. Well, actually, let me show you Jason Guzman. He's been in our system for a while. He hits left, so that's a mark against him, since so does Stott. But he's hit well in AAA the last 2 years, above average. He could compete for a roster spot maybe. He's on the 40-man. And then we've got Nasim Nunez, who is 25 and just wrapped up a average season in AAA, but he can play all 3 infield positions. I might start him in AAA again and have him get corner outfield too, because he could be like a super utility guy for us as soon as, next season or the season after. Casey Salk is an interesting guy. This is my first draft pick, 13th overall in 2021. He was in Double-A, and he had a 106 WRC+. He's still just 22 because he's out of high school. I started playing him in the outfield some. He doesn't really have a defensive home because, his infield range is a 50, his arms is 60, his outfield range is a 40. I see him as a super utility guy too, like a righty bench bat to play second base, third base, left field, right field, and maybe like your defensive sub at shortstop in a blowout or something, So I think he's like a super utility guy just because of his glove. His bat looks good. I think he could play 100 games a year just at a bunch of different positions. So he's on his way in the next couple of years. And after that, there's not a ton of guys here. Let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anybody who's along in there. Yeah, so Adam Hall is an interesting name who just kind of fell off at the plate. He was an interesting name, I should say, who fell off after we got him from the O's. Jordan Westberg, same story. His bat just hasn't developed as much as we were hoping. And Gunnar Henderson had a really good year in Double-A and then came up to Triple-A. He's another guy who doesn't necessarily have a defensive home with just a 50 range and a 60 arm. He's not going to be a standout at second or third. He's another guy who I probably should develop his left and right field. Maybe we'll start him in AAA doing that. And he can be another guy who contends for a super utility role. Kendall Simmons is a guy who just hasn't hit at AAA yet. He's 25 now. I'm not sure that he's the future. So that's second base. Stott's going to lock it down for the next several years, but long term, I think Pantoja is on the horizon, probably more as shortstop, though. Nunez and Salk maybe more as super utility guys and backups that come up in the next year or two. So shortstop, so we've got Willy Adames. Willie's extended for next year. We picked up his option, $14 million deal. And, he doesn't want to listen. So because we picked up that deal, he's not going to talk extension until we actually advance in the offseason. But he was wanting, I think I might have shown this in the last episode, basically 5 years, and I think $25 million per year. So at age 30, as important as he is, I'm not going to do that, I don't think. If I can get him on a 2-year deal, maybe I'd do it. So next year, we're going to need a shortstop. And I don't know that dude is on our team or in our system. Pantoja's not going to be ready yet. Nunez could maybe fake it as our shortstop for a year, 65 range. There's not a lot else that I'm too interested in terms of our long-term shortstop. We just don't have that guy. And so we might have to go outside of our organization next year if Adames isn't back. I'd love to bring back Adames for 2 years and then see where Pantoja's at. But I don't know if he's going to be willing to come back on a 2-year deal. Nicholas Perez is another guy, 65 range. I talked about him. And there was one other guy I wanted to highlight. Oh, Antonio Anderson just doesn't have the range to be shortstop. Our second-round pick from 2023, who's down in A-ball, still just 20 years old. So now let's go ahead and go to third base. We've got Manny Machado. Manny is under contract for 3 more years. He's 33. And he's just been super good for us. I mean, Phillies, he's played in 455 games with 18 WAR and a 131 WRC+. I mean, Manny's just been great. And so I think if I were playing this as kind of like a cutthroat version, trying to build a dynasty for as long as I could, well, I mean, of course I'm trying to do that, but I think I would think about trading Manny at the peak of his value before he declines. But as I've talked about in this series and my O's series, I kind of like the team building part of trying to keep guys around for a long time, and I am a big Machado guy. So I think I'm probably going to try to keep him through the end of this deal, even though that's not the best thing for my long-term prospects. So this is where it gets interesting. We've got Mike Anthony Valdez, the number 5 prospect in baseball now that we picked up at the trade deadline, who had just really not done much in the minor leagues. Remember with the Marlins, but then he crushed it in 38 games with a 1.7 WRC+ for us in high A ball. So he'll start next year in Double-A. Another guy who doesn't really have a defensive home, just a 60 arm, 45 range. Outfield wise, 45 range. So he's another guy who's not going to be great at any position, but his bat is good enough. I mean, especially if he gets what the OSA says he is, that it doesn't matter. He could play third base or just DH him, but he's coming. And I think I will probably dedicate 2026 to him being in AA and AAA and working on a bunch of different defensive positions to get experience. And then 2027, he'll be on the team one way or another. We'll find room for him. If he's hitting to what our scout believes he'll hit. So, we talked about all these guys, just some more super utility guys, and Perez, Nunez, Salk. Champion is a guy that's further away and maybe not as high of a ceiling. Our second-round pick in 2024, but good arm. He can play second base, but he was really good in rookie ball this year. He just turned 20 this season. So that's third base. Now we go out to the outfield where we have our franchise players locked down for the next 8 million years. We got Soto in left field. He's 27. He's under contract. So 1, 2, 3. After going in the next season, he'll have 5 more years before his opt-out. So another 5 years of Soto until he's 32. He's our left fielder that whole time, I think. We've got a bunch of cool guys, interesting guys, though. Some we might need to trade. Some who are just so far away, like Edwin Flores. We signed him as an international free agent. The nice 69th best prospect in baseball. And our scout loves him. OSA loves him. And we're looking at a really good player there if he can develop. Danny San Miguel, the number 35 prospect in baseball, another international free agent signing, who was fine as an 18-year-old in rookie ball. So I'll take that. I'll probably keep him in rookie ball again next year. And then we've got Valdez. This guy, Josh Falgoust, is just 19, second-round pick just this season. He's a center fielder, but several years away. Drew Gray is, of course, a two-way player. There's a pitcher, but he put up a 150 WRC plus in AA this year. He's not amazing with the bat, you can see here, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he develops, but I don't think he's an everyday left fielder or outfielder type guy. Let's see. Rock Riggio is a guy who's obviously kind of ready for the majors, but we don't have a room for him. And he's a lefty bat, which with Harper and Soto being lefty bats, I don't know that I need and Jung-Hoo Lee being a lefty bat. I only am going to have one more outfielder on my roster. I'm not sure I want that to be a lefty. So do we have room for Rock Riggio? Probably not this year, but he's got 2 option years left. So he's just really just quality depth for us at this point. He's ready for the majors, but we just don't have room for him. I might deal him at some point, but honestly, I kind of like him as a replacement. Say, God forbid, Soto went down for 2 months. I feel like Riggio would be a good guy to have step in. Kyle Stowers, same thing, another lefty bat who he did well in 50 plate appearances for him this year, a 122 WRC plus. He's another guy who's ready for prime time, but he's 27, and again, a lefty bat. Him or Riggio could be on the move this offseason. I would say, I might just keep one of them around as my backup outfielder depth in AAA. Enrique Bradfield is our first-round pick from 2023. I think his range was 70 when I drafted him. He's not nearly as interesting at a 65 range, but he could play center field. He's another lefty bat. He just graduated to AAA after dominating AA in the first part of the year. And he's going to be there next year, obviously, too. He's not even on the 40-man yet, so we got some time on him. Tommy DeLandry is a good guy to have around because he's a righty bat. Now, he was just in AA this year and was just a little above league average, but I think he will be a guy who could be my 5th outfielder and bench bat sometime soon. Maybe as soon as next year if I don't like my other options, in free agency and stuff, because I want a righty bat in the outfield. And let's see, anybody else we need to talk about here? I don't think so. A bunch of these guys are pretty far away. No one else here really need to talk about right now. So we'll see what we do with Riggio. We'll see what we do with Stowers. Bradfield and DeLandry will be in the mix. And then obviously Falgoust, Gray, Valdez, San Miguel, Flores, all guys that are on the way at one point or another. There's not going to be much difference here when I go to center field. Obviously Harper and Lee are here. We've got Christian Pache. He's under contract for 5 more years as well. And he's 26. And same options. I think Falgoust, Riggio, Bradfield, those are the guys who would step in if he was hurt. But we don't really need that. And I'll show you these 2 guys too. This is my 5th round pick from 2025, Martirano. Yeah, Eric Martirano. And he's in rookie ball. He's forever ways away. Andy Peters, my 2nd round pick, really good range. He's an A ball. He could be up. He's a right-handed bat. He could be up within a couple of years maybe if he develops. So same story with right field. We've got Bryce Harper out there. We've got Jung-Hoo Lee. All these guys here we've already talked about, really. All the guys that kind of are relevant. So starting pitching-wise. So we have Barrios, Nola, Segovia, Alcantara is a free agent we're going to resign, in Sheffield. Those are our 4 starters. After that, Mick Abel is a guy who's ready for the majors. He put up 3.2 WAR in AAA this year. He's 24. He's developed nicely. I'd like to have him in my bullpen first. I like to have young guys come up and pitch out of the bullpen to get some experience first. So Castaneda was going to be the guy, but he's out for the entire year. Will Karsten was my first-round pick in 2024, 29th overall. And he moved up to AA to end the year and pitched well with a 1.6 ERA, a 3.65 FIP in his 6 starts. But he'll probably start the year there. And he's on the scene probably in 2027 for us as an option. So that's Karsten. And then Carter Daniels is another possibly interesting arm, 14th round pick in 2021. I don't know what the future holds for him, but he's a guy who's in the mix. He's not going to start for me next year. Chris McMahon is a guy. Excuse me, I got to take a sip of water here. Woo! Did I edit that out? I don't know. We'll see. Chris McMahon is a guy who has 3 great pitches, and he pitched for us some this year. He pitched 11 innings and was good. Had a .82 ERA and a 2.65 FIP, and he was good in AAA. He's pitched some for Texas in the majors. I think he'll probably be in the mix for a bullpen role next year, maybe as a starter too, depending on what the offseason brings us. Medina's kind of older. And then we've got some more guys who I've drafted recently. Jason Diaz was a 4th-round pick in 2023, pitched all right in AA. He's 24 now. He'll probably be in AAA next year. Another guy who will be an option. But none of these guys are like aces. Hopefully somebody will take a step forward. But I have a bunch of guys who are more like 4th and 5th starters or bullpen arms. And hopefully some of them come up and prove me wrong on what I think their ceiling is. Luke Ellis, 2021, round 17. And he didn't pitch great at AA, but he pitched well enough. And now he's at AAA, and he pitched okay in his 2 starts there. He's still just 22. Let's see. Drew Gray, we already talked about. Kyle Mott is a guy who will be in the mix next year. He was in AA where he pitched decently and then finished the season with 6 starts in AAA. And so he'll probably be on the 40-man this year and in the mix. Bradley Gajan, another first-round pick, this one from 2022. He's only made his way up to high A. I mean, he's only 22. Drafted him as a high schooler, and he really hasn't had a standout season yet. He was pretty good this season, though. Pretty good. So he'll start the season in AA and be on the scene within the next couple of years. Dylan Carter, I believe we talked about. He's kind of fallen off. I probably don't need to manage him as a prospect anymore. And yeah, that's kind of the run of the starters. It's those 4 guys and like Abel, Karsten, McMahon, Daniels, Diaz. But I think I might try to go out and get a starter this year rather than start a young guy as my 5th starter. And relievers, not going to be a whole lot different of a scene. I'll show you my major league relievers in a minute. Actually, why don't I do that now? So pitching-wise, again, as I talked about, no 5th starter. Who's going to be back? Fox is, we're going to have 8 relievers. Fox, Bummer, definitely back. Littell, I think will possibly be trade bait. So Pop, Schultz, Caraway, all back. So that's 5. And then DeGoss probably back 6. So then that would give me room to bring up 2 guys. Maybe this guy is a young reliever who I signed as a minor league free agent in 2021 because he showed some potential but not this good. And now he's developed into what could be a great reliever for us. He put up 2.4 WAR and 4 R WAR in AA last year. He's going to be in AAA, possibly up with the big club. Another guy like that, Chris McMahon, we talked about. Jack Little is a guy who's on the radar. Reggie Lawson's he's out of options. He's probably not going to be with the team next year. Beck Way is a guy who could be trade bait or in our bullpen. But essentially, we'll have a couple rooms for young guys. Mick Abel, Kyle Mott, those kind of guys to possibly step in and be bullpen pieces for us. I do wish one of them was a lefty because I'd like to have a 3rd lefty in there. So, say we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we add 2 more young guys. That puts it to 7, and then maybe let DeGoss go since he's 28 now and in arbitration. And although he could be my 5th starter also, and bring in a lefty in that place. So we'll see. I think we'll bring in a fifth starter. We'll bring in a couple young arms and maybe a lefty free agent for a third lefty in the pen. I have started looking, so I kind of was like, okay, what if I just wanted to go out and get the best starter I could, because I think this is a good rotation, but I think it's possibly the biggest weakness on the team. Nola and Barrios are getting a little older, 32 and 31. Sheffield's good, but not an ace. Segovia has one season under his belt and is fragile. And he was great. I mean, he led the league in ERA, 7.2 R WAR, 3.6 WAR. He was awesome. But I think if I want to go out and really, take this offseason by storm, I can trade for a starter. So started looking around, and what teams? I was looking at the Marlins. Trevor Rogers is essentially the best starter in the majors right now. He led the league in FIP minus, WAR, walks per 9, and he's been really good for multiple seasons. Now, he's under contract. He's got 2 more years, one at 18.2, one at 27.2, and then an opt-out, and 3 more years at 25.2. So he's about to turn 28. So he'll have the opt-out when he'll be about to turn 30. So there's some risk here. This is a really big contract to take on, and my assistant GM doesn't like this deal at all. We dropped by $11 million in available budget, but we'd be giving up some guys that we talked about. Zach Littell, who is one of the best relievers in baseball, but again, he's just that, a reliever. He's under control for only 1 more year. Carter Daniels, this young starter we talked about, who I think is a major league pitcher, but we have a lot of guys who are kind of like this, in this oh, okay, cool, number 4 starter maybe. Reggie Lawson, another guy who's a major league pitcher, but just probably don't have room for him, especially with them being out of options. We talked about Antonio Anderson. This is a good young player, a second-round pick in 2023, but he's not a shortstop, so who really cares? And then Beck Way, who can start or be a reliever, but fly ball pitcher with the movement. He had a really good year for me. 1.3 WAR, 3.53 ERA, 3.12 FIP in 66 innings, but a guy I'm willing to give up for a great starter. And then I'm trying to remember, is Mackenzie Gore still with the Padres? He is. All right, so then I also looked at Mackenzie Gore, who is not as good as Rogers, but is still a very good pitcher. And he's 26, and he's under contract for 2 more years and then a player option. So 11-1, 16-8. Neither of these guys are injury prone. He's put up, good seasons. Good seasons, but not great. And now what does he cost? So it's a very similar package, except Zach Littell is not in here and Reggie Lawson is not in here. Daniels, Way, and Anderson still in, but Caden Marshall is in, my 13th round pick from 2023. He ripped it up in high A ball this year as a 24-year-old. Now he's 25. I don't see any harm in losing him. And Miles Jansen, who is just started raining. I don't know if you just heard that. Who is a decent depth pitcher. So that would be for Mackenzie Gore. Now I could go out and just say, I'm going to get both these guys, and then I'm going to trade Barrios because he's getting older. But like I said, I like to do roster building. I like to keep guys for extended periods of time. I could do something like that, but honestly, I'm probably leaning towards bringing in Richards at this point from the Marlins. Now remember, this $16 million includes what I need for draft and international free agents. So, say I need $7 million for the draft and $5 million for international free agents. That only leaves me $4 million of budget room. So at that point, I don't know what I'm looking to do in terms of I might have to move out some money. Nobody's significant, obviously. I'm not going to trade like Soto or even Manny or Lee. I might move out like an Aaron Bummer reliever at $7.5 million. Or I might move out Brett DeGoss to get another $2.8 million and replace him with a league minimum guy, one of those young guys I was showing you. So anyways, that's the team. That's the offseason. I think we'll be back with almost the identical offense except at catcher. And I think we'll add a starter. I think we'll let some young guys come into the bullpen. I think we'll hopefully add a lefty reliever and go from there. In the next video, we'll get into expansion. My league is expanding by 2 teams. I'll have to do an episode on the expansion draft to recap that. And the 2 teams of my patrons there's currently a poll open for them on my Patreon page. They nominated some teams, and we're down now to 4, and they're voting on the 4. So Thanks for watching. We'll be back with some expansion draft talk, and then we'll be back with the offseason recap. And let me know, what do you think, Rodgers or Gore? I'm leaning heavily towards Rodgers. And talk to you guys next time. Bye.